hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Welcome to the stream. I got a little thrown off there. I thought I had picked a cool little jammy jam for us to get into, but it seemed as if that little piano jam wasn't exactly what I expected it to be. So instead, we're gonna get some ambient, improvised, kind of crazy music. Still trying to navigate, providing a well-curated soundscape for us during the streams. This is also not up the alley I was wanting. Find something else. And then we're going to talk today about tokenism. It's actually a word that I don't usually use in my vocabulary, but I found myself over the past few days really thinking about this word a lot and thinking about how applicable it is to what we're dealing with in modern times with trying to adjust our culture to be more inclusive and more equitable for everybody. It's a challenge because oftentimes we catch ourselves highlighting the stories of the exceptional within marginalized communities that we're trying to mobilize. And I used to think it was okay. Maybe I didn't think it was great, but I didn't think it was harmful. And now I'm really starting to feel that it's harmful because it's distracting us from really doing the work that we need to be doing. Speaking of the work that I really need to be doing, I'm gonna brew up some tea now. I'm also doing some social eating today. I didn't get to finish my lunch earlier, so I'm finishing it now. I hope you guys don't mind. I made a little rice and cabbage and bacon and beef and kale with some avocado and crema. Rich and delectable. So I'd love to hear all of y'all's opinions and perspectives about this topic of tokenism. That's some wind. We're getting some wind here. That's pretty trippy. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and prime all the wares with my hot water. Yeah, I wanted to take a little break from the techno today, and I have been having issues with the royalty-free classical performances that I've been using, so back to the drawing board, trying to find some new artists to support. Oh, you like the soundscape? Cool. Yeah, this is just borderline noise. It's a little harmonic and a little bit melodic, but for the most part, kind of like noise. So I'm gonna make some amber oolong here. This is actually a really special, unique tea. A Taiwanese style oolong from Nepal, Elam. My Pokari. Did you guys all have a great weekend? I did. I had a relaxing weekend, and yesterday I had a few different tea tasting events, tea education events, so that was nice to get back in the flow. One of them was actually in person, so that felt really special to serve tea and to have that visceral experience of seeing people's reaction as they discover something new about tea, which for the most part, I think most people kind of feel like, especially if they identify as being tea drinkers, they will feel as if they know everything they need to know about tea. And then they learn something new. It's pretty magical. Pretty magical. Yeah, I don't want to become famous. Sorry about that. Appreciate your offer of helping me become famous, but I'm not interested. So I'm gonna ban you. Thank you. Hi Koi, how you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, this is actually a very unique tea. That's why I said it's special. The farmer Mongkumar Mukia, he invested in these Taiwanese tea processing equipments, and his first successful batch of the bald Oolong, which is here, happened in the summer of 2017. Hey Joni, good to see you. Thank you so much for sharing the article today. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it now. First, I'm brewing up a little bit of tea, and then we'll get into the article. I am brewing up a beautiful Taiwanese style high degree oxidation oolong tea from Nepal, Oolong, Nepal. You want to see the spent leaf. Sorry about the black and white. Maybe you can't see all the detailed of the leaves, but it's good. Oh, it smells great though. It smells divine. Kind of nutty and roasty, even though it's not roasted. It is not roasted. Yeah, Joni, I am talking specifically on the topic of tokenism, which, you know, that was kind of the backbone of the article that published today in Teaching, which I'll bring that up so we can just look at it briefly. It's a very short read. I always try to keep my blog articles very short and directly to the point. Even though sometimes I'm pretty impassioned about something that I'm talking about, I try to keep the ideas concise. So, here we go. This is the article. Let me zoom it in a little bit more so we can see it better. And I'll fix it here as well. So yeah, I basically addressed Women's History Month. I was actually specifically asked by the editor of Teaching, which is a wonderful blog. Go follow it. Follow this tea blog. I am not the only writer here. I am just one of many contributors. There is a whole list of wonderful contributors that write for this blog. But the editor had reached out to me specifically asking for some contribution about Women's History Month. And so I was like, yeah, sure. I'll give my perspective, and I was really kind of on the, thanks Joni. Oh, hey Nick, how are you doing? Good to see you. Oh, Joni, thank you so much for posting the link there. Yeah, Joni's got it in the comments there. You guys can all access it. Nick, you can't stick around. Well, that's okay. Thanks for stopping by and just saying hello. We are talking about a very hot topic, tokenism. So perhaps if there's a future time you'd like to discuss this topic, I'd be more than happy to hold space for that conversation with you. Thank you so much for chipping in your hello. And you just finished your stream. Well, that's too bad. I would have rated you again had I started earlier. I had a little bit of a late start today. So late I didn't even get to finish my lunch. So I'm doing a little social eating while we have this conversation, but it's okay. Okay, so back to this article. I was asked to write it, and I was really on the fence about how direct I should be. You know, because when it talks about, or when it comes to feminism, or these deeply rooted issues. Oh, you were having a shosham mix. Was that a blend that you made yourself, Nick? That's kind of interesting. You don't hear that very often. You made it. Yep. Gotta be you. Gotta be your mix. Well, maybe one time we will have the pleasure of tasting it together. I'd love to try one of your tea blends there. Ooh, 20-year-old shoe. Yeah, I'd stay away from that tea. I would not drink that tea. And we could talk about that later, Nick, if you ever want to know why. Yeah, I go to Vancouver often, I told you. So I've got actually a really good tea there, tea friend, not in Vancouver proper, but she's in Surrey. She's in Surrey. Yeah, I'll talk to you another time about, there's 2 reasons why I wouldn't drink that tea. I'll talk to you another time about that. Yeah, Surrey. Yep, Surrey. Sorry, not Surrey, Surrey. I just know it's kind of like the joking place. It's like when you're coming from that place, it's like people in Vancouver like to make jokes about those folks. But my good friend, Tea Friend, is in Surrey. Actually, no, she's actually in the US right now because she works in the film industry. She does like prosthetic makeup. She's a prosthetic makeup artist. And I guess in Vancouver, there's like a really big like kind of Hollywood type industry there. But I think it was all kind of shut down during the pandemic, and so now she's spending her time, I believe, in Burlington, which is not too far. It's a fast drive between the two. But I'd love to introduce you to them, and hopefully all of us could drink tea together. Oh, come on, Love Tour. What's that? I'm going to give you a chance to explain what that is. Yeah, they're actually organizing the the Birmingham Tea Festival, which got canceled because of the pandemic, but really good, solid tea peeps in your area that you should be connected with. I'm connected with them. Oh, I see. Okay. All right, Love Tour, I got it. I read your comment and I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you one chance to explain yourself because I get it. Yeah, prosthetic makeup artist. That's a tongue twister right there. Yeah, she works for she's actually won awards. She's like an award-winning makeup artist, but now she's quickly becoming a tea expert. Her and her good friend, her partner, who is actually in Bellingham, so that's why they kind of go between the two spots. Anyway, back to the article. I did want to use this as a platform to be straightforward and tell some truths, but at the same time, I wanted to be really sensitive about Bellingham's super cool. It is. I like it there a lot. Really cool little port town. I wanted to be sensitive because, you know, there's different cultural norms throughout the tea world, and, you know, I don't want to be bad-mouthing one, or what's considered to be bad-mouthing. I don't think any of this is bad-mouthing. This is just telling truth. But all right, Nick, we'll see you later. Thanks for stopping by and saying hello. Nick, we're going to meet in Topia in about an hour. So if you're back and available in about an hour, we'll be in Topia. I don't stream from Topia on Monday nights. I just do my Dignified hospitality little chat. But anyway, Teaching had posted another article, and I'm just going to call it out right now, because the other article that got published in Teaching was the motivation for me to write so strongly that what I wrote in my contribution. So this is the main one. There's a video that went along with it. Like, a lot of effort went into this article, and there's actually nothing immediately negative about this article. It's all very subtle. And that's what I want to talk about today, because I think a lot of the subtleties around tokenism and the ills of tokenism can often be overlooked unless we open up the discussion. So this article, The Contemporary Roles of Women in Tea, focus on Nepal. Someone who grew up in Nepal, understands the demographic there and the cultural situations, is a male, actually. So it was a man writing this article. And he went ahead and interviewed actually several friends of mine. Several of these women are friends of mine that I've become close with in my travels to Nepal. Very helpful. Susma here, as well as Manuka. They've been like extremely helpful in my journey of understanding Nepalese culture and Nepalese tea. So they are awesome, these girls. I would say like all 6 of women here that got interviewed all have really incredible stories. And The sad thing about these stories, though, if you really read deeply into them, some of them actually say, you know, I've studied tea because, you know, I come from a lineage of my family working within the tea fields. And so when I chose to go to university, I studied tea, which is great. And I think that this is a huge trend right now, not just in tea, but in all kinds of different industries. You're seeing more and more women getting higher level education in these subjects. But what you may overlook in reading these stories is that none of these women are actually like leaders in tea. Like they studied tea, they're doing something different than what their predecessors, their mothers and their grandmothers, they probably never even went to school. And so these are university educated women, so celebrating that. But then at the end of the day, within the gender roles, these women are at this point, supporting their husbands. And we should celebrate that as well. But rather than trying to, throw this blanket of achievement and winning, this is success and winning, we really should be talking about just the simplicities of the stories of women, not just honing in on the stories that like make women look good or make us feel good about supporting women or supporting these kind of token stories. I know all about that. I'm a token female leader. I've had my story told simply because I was a woman, within a marginalized, oppressed system. And sure, it makes you feel good to be celebrated, but when you don't actually see the changes happening, when you look at the numbers of women becoming educated, I think now a lot of degree programs have more than 50% of women compared to men in the study program. But then whenever you look at the numbers of actual leadership and influence in the field, it's not matching. It's not anywhere near there, because ultimately at the end of the day, there still are gender roles. And we're not trying to fight gender roles right now. We're not trying to say that those gender roles are wrong. And I feel like not talking about those stories. Hey Jim, how's it going? Good to see you. First time I'm seeing you on Instagram versus Twitch. Maybe you're on Twitch and you're just checking out the Instagram. I've got like my sexualized female filter on an Instagram. It's just kind of a joke. Oh yeah, that's interesting, Love Tour. I don't know what video you saw about that, but that is a huge prevalent problem in the Indian tea fields. Not so much the women drinking the alcohol, but the men. Because, a lot of the work has been siloed and it's all done by women. So the women and the children are the ones that bear the responsibility of going and doing the labor, plucking the leaf, or working in the factories. And it's kind of left the men without any kind of sense of duty. And so there is a big alcohol problem. And it's true, there is toxic, there's a lot of stories. Here and there, you'll read a story in the news about a bad batch of their like white rice wine that they make locally at these tea plantation communities that end up killing people because it's got methanol in it. So the men will do better and be healthier and have more dignity if we support the women too. So it goes hand in hand, right? So that was like my main kind of beef, is that like there's tokenism involved here. By highlighting these like special stories, we're really kind of looking away from the real stories. The second issue here that's related, and it may not seem related, and this is one of those subtleties, is you can see the questions that were asked for each of these women. And these questions were exclusively asked to women, not to the general public of men and women. All the questions were asked specifically to women. And there's this question here: how did it feel when you guys were among the very few women in the tea industry? Isn't that a funny question? I don't know. And this happened a couple weeks ago. I was at my friend's restaurant, a woman, very successful, very popular female business owner here in Las Vegas. Her husband works in the kitchen. She works front of house. It is a beautiful, synergetic, beautiful story. Their story is like the epitome of feminism and the stories that we can be looking at for inspiration with this. And I was at her restaurant and, all right, Gordon, enjoy your walk. She was telling me a story about how some customers, two female customers, had come into the restaurant earlier, and casually my friend addressed them as you guys. Would you guys like some water? I think that was the question, but just general said you guys. And these women were offended and addressed that statement and said, hey, you know, we're not guys. Like, can we please try to come up with some new terminology? And I don't know if she got scolded, but the way that my friend told the story, my friend like immediately was like justifying the cultural norms. It's like, oh, we all know that you guys is a general term that addresses both men and women, which is true. This is true. But is it right? I mean, obviously, some people are offended by it. And, you know, I feel like sometimes people are too fast to defend these cultural norms versus really thinking about them. And I am guilty of it too. I do it all the time. I say, you guys, you'll probably hear me on stream doing that. So I'm not trying to say that this sentence is wrong, but I just feel like we need to hold space for those sensitivities and try and do the work to create a more equitable and hospitable environment for women. And this is not just about being respectful to women and calling them by what they are. The underlying benefit of doing this work is that we will create a safe place for people to feel vulnerable to share their stories. Because as of right now, like if I was asked this question above here, and I understand the context of the questions being asked of me is that like the goal is to portray me as like a token, you know, special, exceptional, you know, woman, I may answer the questions wrong, not wrong, but differently. And I may not be fully vulnerable with my story because being addressed as you guys is not like a safe place. You know, it's subtle. It's so subtle and it's so hard to validate it, you know, because just a few years ago, I totally would have been on the other side saying, no, that's cultural norm. We just got to be smarter. We just got to be better. But now it's like, no, the cultural norms change all the time. I mean, when did we start using, let's research this. When did we start using the expression you guys? By the middle of the 20th century, women began using the words too. They increasingly used you guys when addressing others in the plural, regardless of gender. This is Times Magazine. Hey, Joe, good to see you. Welcome to the stream. Hope I see you in Topia later. Yeah, y'all. There you go. You can just use y'all. But then you're going to have to worry about potentially offending and culturally appropriating people from, you know, places that feel they have ownership on that expression. I'm just kidding. I think y'all is a great expression. Oh, this is an interesting article, I think. Well, this is a very basic, like, grammar lesson here. I like use. I like saying use. They tried, for example, putting a plural S on you, making it use. Both odd looking. Use or use. You people, you folks, you ones, or more colloquial, you ones. Yins. I like that, yins. How did yins feel? I like that. And then y'all. So here, the y'all certainly is another version of you guys. But when did, okay, that led to the pivotal moment in the history of Guy. Parliament approved a 5th of November act, and that an act of public thanksgiving to Almighty God every year on the 5th day of November. The new holiday would feature special religious services during the day and bonfires at night, lighting fires to mock the man who hadn't succeeded. In the fires, they burned effigies of the Pope, Guy Fawkes, and other, okay, so let's see. This was in the early 18th century. Yeah, so it became like a ubiquitous term in the mid 20th century. So that's like less than 100 years ago, right? So don't try to defend a culture that is like this. You know what I mean? Like, there's no use in trying to defend a culture. If it's offending someone, then validate that, you know, and go with it. Hi, Cindy. Good to see you. That's a good point, Love Tori. Thank you for sharing your perspective on that. Yeah, it's a major problem. And it's related to the sexism. It's related to this divide that's happened, this siloing of labor that's happened between men and women in the tea industry. Okay, so now we know the history of you guys, and I have aired my grievances about this article. And it's not blatant. It's like, it's certainly not enough for like us to like instigate some kind of cancel culture movement. But it certainly is valid enough for us to have this conversation and this discussion around these subtleties. And you guys is only one example. Bitcoin. It's only one example of these subtleties. You know, I'm sure that there's hundreds and hundreds more of it's not okay to shame anybody for those kinds of actions. See, and that's the problem. As soon as you start shaming, then you put a negative spin on it. So rather than shaming, you know, I mean, of course, what you can do is like identify when you do it yourself. Like, I do it myself all the time. I use the expression you guys all the time. And so now, you know, I'm going to make more conscientious effort to not do that. So, you know, others can see by that example. So yeah, I did not shame the writer of that article. I look forward to having a productive conversation with him when the time is right, which may be after the stream. I don't know. We'll find out. I'm going to kind of wait for that person to come after me. Not come after, but, you know, request to have that conversation with me. Because in the article that I wrote, you know, I made a very direct statement about it in my article, which is here. That, you know, we need to hold space for the sensitivities. So that's different than shaming. That's different than cancel culture. It's like holding space for the sensitivities. So rather than saying, oh, this is just culture and we just need to be smart and mature and deal with it, is like, no, like, let's hold space for this other person's trauma response to what's going on and try to understand it and try to improve our own actions. Oh dear, what is going on with this music? So let's look at what does tokenism mean? I've got the dictionary as usual, and yeah, what do we got here? We got some ads. That's great. But we got the definition. The policy or practice of making only a symbolic effort as to desegregate. So a lot of times this term has been applied towards race, but it can be applied to anything. It's really any marginalized community, members of marginalized communities that are like become symbols of making us feel good about our actions. And so then that brings me to my beef about even Black History Month is the same thing. The same concept happens. So like, let's see. This is the official website of the U.S. Women's History Month. And the purpose of this holiday is to celebrate the achievements. Tokenism. It's tokenism. You know, and I'm not afraid to label it that way because that's what it is. You know, when I get interviewed in a podcast or an article as like successful achieving woman, let's celebrate her story, like I'm not offended by that. You know, I'm more than happy to share my story, and if it is an inspiration to someone else, great. If it's not, also great. But I when the deed is said and done, yeah, this doesn't have the right definition or the direct definition. I'm sure if I dug into the website, I'd find it, but I don't have patience for that. All right, so here it is from the History Channel website. Women's History Month is a celebration of women's contributions to history, culture, and society, and has been observed annually in the month of March since 1987. So, like, specifically, the protocol of Women's History Month is to celebrate contributions versus just celebrating women. You know, you see this. It's not about celebrating women in general and or the contributions of all women. And then when you see any kind of article, and so I did pull up a Google search here. This is Dignified Hospitality, so talking specifically about the hospitality industry. If we look at the top Google searches for Women's History Month hospitality, so this will include articles, blogs, all types of stuff. Meet Hospitality's Women in Charge. Read these 16 stories of women changing the food. Celebrating the women in hospitality. Celebrating female figures. Okay, let's go to this article and let's see the nature of all the women that are celebrated here. Yeah, these are all bosses. These are all managers and bosses. These are all like exceptional token female leaders in this story series. And again, the stories of these women should not be neglected. We definitely should be seeing these stories and understanding their perspectives and how their journey and their experiences that got them to where they are and creating the value that they're creating. But this is tokenism. This really is just, you know, a lot of these companies, like I saw that the first result after the ads, the very first top SEO result is celebrating the women of Hilton. And I think of Hilton, I think of Paris Hilton, and let's talk about the feminism there. And these are probably, you know, all the pioneers and the movers and shakers, the chief engineer. Like, these are all exceptional stories, which, again, we need to be telling these stories. But, you know, there's so much more. There's so many more stories that often get, like... Yeah. All right. Joni, you bring up a good point, and thank you for doing that, because there is positive to tokenism. I mean, if there wasn't, we'd stop doing it already. Like, there's obviously some positive to it. I mean, the most immediate one is the feel good, right? So, like, for Hilton Corporation and for this publication, definitely added their value by telling these stories. I think that there's positive. So, like, I'll tell you, before I became a feminist, and a few years ago, I would have been motivated by these stories, and I still am motivated by these stories. But, like, I would have been, like, purely motivated by these stories, and I would have calculated my success and my worth based upon my story being here, and no one else's, right? And that's the key, and no one else's, is, like, my story. I'm the leader, I'm the boss, I'm the special one. I really used to think that way. And, like, that's how, not that, like, I genuinely wanted that for myself, but, like, that was my definition of success as being a woman in a man's world. Now my perspective has completely changed. Like, my idea of success is really, yeah, if I could make some kind of impact on evening the playing field, so all of our stories will be here versus just my story. And so, the positives of tokenism is that I think it has motivated over the years the people that probably already were destined to be exceptional to be even more so. That's a positive. I don't know if any of you if you guys see, there we go. I did it. I gotta it's true. It's a cultural norm. It's a part of our vocabulary, but it doesn't devalidate, or it doesn't invalidate the fact that some people are offended by that. And many more in the future will become offended by it once they realize. But I'm sure there are long-term positive impacts of tokenism. It's not all bad. Jim, you're right. Yeah, you can't fit all the stories in there. You can't. Oh, that's an interesting perspective, Joe. And I think that your question there is kind of related to what I just said about my own personal motivations, past motivations of being one of those token exceptional people, right? Like the quote, that crappy, sexist, immature book that was recommended to me, the Path of the Peaceful Warrior. There was one positive, awesome quote. The quote was, "You keep trying to be exceptional in an ordinary realm when you should try to be normal in an exceptional realm." I like that. It's all about changing the perspective, right? So Joe asked, do you find that members of these segmented groups are often the ones who tokenize themselves? And I'm guessing with segmented, you mean marginalized. For instance, gay pride could be seen as a token, yet is primarily the gay population who initiated it. I don't know if gay pride itself is a token, is a movement of tokenism. I will say though that a company that does affirmative action where they actively try to fix their diversity by placing a token gay person on a team or in a position of leadership, that would be tokenism. And then for them to broadcast it in their newsletter, oh, welcome to our team, let's tell the story of how, this person is doing great work and mobilizing the gay community. That would be tokenism. But I think the concept of gay pride itself is not tokenism. So Hungry Wolf, hey, thanks for joining the stream, joining the conversation. You say pride started as a protest and self-defense and remains so in many ways. Yeah, thank you for that education. I actually don't know the history of pride. What could be tokenism is when politicians that are running for office, when they march in a pride parade. I would feel like that would be an example of tokenism. And for them to have, all of their gay staffers with them, and trying to get publicity in the newspapers for being. I went to gay pride here in Las Vegas before the pandemic. And I went to march with with some friends that invited me because I was going to be hosting an event for the Elizabeth Warren campaign. Of course, not a propaganda event, or it was a community roundtable event that I allowed them to use my platform and tea room for. And they said, "Oh, we're going to be marching in the Pride Parade," and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. Elizabeth Warren is into it. Cool." I showed up. Every single Democratic primary candidate had a float in the parade, and it was huge fanfare. And Elizabeth Warren actually showed up. She physically showed up, and she was marching in the parade with her rainbow boa, And, it made the front page of the newspaper. And yeah, of course, she had all of her homosexual staffers and team by her side. It's like, I think that's borderline tokenism. I think that's the only place that I can think of gay pride having tokenism involved in it. Okay, so we get it. Women's History Month is tokenism. So how to fix it? Thank you, Joni. I'm gonna check it out. All right, I'm gonna check it out for all of us. This is a good article, Joni. Thank you. Appreciate it. Ha, Jim, that's a good question. Where is the line between tokenism and solidarity? I think authenticity. And that's a hard line to draw and a hard line to decipher and read, is authenticity. Like, is this person really authentically, marching in solidarity with us? Or are they just doing it, to reach some type of diversity quota that they're trying to hit and get some publicity hits that they're trying to get? Research shows us workplaces need this level of diversity to prevent tokenism. It says tokenism can hurt individual performances and the business overall, according to this analysis of 80 studies over 25 years. And this article is from last year. Anyone can be a token employee and experience a host of related problems, but being a token is most difficult for women and racial minorities, according to the review of research over the past quarter century. In some cases, being a token may even help men. Oh, interesting. Oh, I like that, Hungry Wolf. So Hungry Wolf says the line is drawn at the feeling of welcome, I think. So welcome, that I've never heard before. You mean welcome as in vulnerable and open and welcoming? Is that what you mean? Because I think if that's the case, then that's a very similar definition to when I say authenticity. You can tell, when someone's being authentic with you, it's like the same feeling you get when you show up at their home and you get either a welcoming vibe for them or you get this vibe of oh yeah, you can come in, but you know what I mean? If you'd be comfortably invited, it's solidarity. If you wouldn't feel welcome, it's tokenism. I like that, Hungry Wolf. I like that a lot. So Joni says in this article, so maybe we don't have to read the whole article, but in its conclusion, the one line stood out to me: research on tokens has been prolific and much progress has been made. Our review supports the idea that being a token is, for the most part, a negative experience that carries with it a host of adverse consequences, especially for women and racial minorities. It's true. So not only is tokenism not advancing us in the grand scheme of the restorative culture that tokenism is intentioned to be providing, but it can actually be negative towards the people that are the tokens. Not only constantly dealing with being marginalized and being one outed, oh, you're the single one out, you're a token person to comment on this. But I think it actually can instigate tokens to feel like they're the too special and actually can be territorial with their token status, right? Because it's oh, I'm the token. We can't have someone else here. I'm the token. Just like what I was saying with those token storytelling of female leaders used to motivate me, because I used to wanted to be that token person. And now, my whole ideology has flipped on it, because yeah, I don't think tokens are a good thing, because then that leaves in the dust everybody else. People use attention like a drug, and unfortunately that takes away from the people who actually need it. That is a good point, Joe. And that's the difference between solidarity and tokenism. Oh, I'm loving this conversation, guys. Yeah. So there is real life data and understanding around the ills of tokenism. So I don't know. I don't think that we need to go onto like a cancel culture, rampage for tokenism, but just become smarter leaders, smarter community members, and we can stop focusing on the stories of the exceptional and try to focus on the stories of everybody. But people aren't going to feel comfortable. Like, let's say, for example, you have a business newsletter for your company. And I've got the affirmative action definition here from the Britannica Encyclopedia, so please read this while I'm talking. You are welcome to, because this is another issue with like tokenism and forced diversity that doesn't really address the core problem of what we're talking about in this change. But let's say you work for a company and your company has like a monthly newsletter that they send out to all the employees. And usually the tone of this newsletter is tokenism. It's like, oh, look at this great, Black employee and their family and what they're doing in the community. Look at this female employee and what they're doing. This is how she got to this position of leadership. And then that newsletter puts a call out to the whole company. It's like, we want to tell your story. Tell your story. If you are like entry level, or you're not in a position of leadership, or your confidence is not there to make you feel as if you're in a position of leadership, you probably just won't even reply to the call. You just be like, oh, my story is not worthy. I'm not a token. Like, I'm not worthy to be there. And so I think that that's like another part of the importance of all of us as a culture to address these subtleties and create that safe place for people to feel confident and vulnerable to share their stories. Not that there's going to be a negative impact to it. Like, I don't think that employee would feel like they would be shunned or shamed for sharing their story, but they would just feel like, my story is not important. The world doesn't care about my story. The world only cares about exceptionalism, which we're missing out on a lot of really great stories if we do that. Oh, Hungry Wolf, you're a token. Now, are you a token? Are you like a forced token, or are you a token just because of the nature, the timing and the nature of the because it's very rare where like a white male will be the token, like a true token, like a forced token. Oh, so you say it's just that nobody has stuck around. And okay, so that's an important point, Hungry Wolf, because when you think about, the numbers of women going to culinary school is really high right now. Let me look it up. The number of women enrolled in culinary school. Let me look at. 51.6%. I don't know the source of this. We can look at it. This is the first time I remember female students outnumber males, and this was published in 2017. So since 2017, majority of culinary school employee or students are women. Yet, if you look at Bitcoin, quiet boy, please. I know it's exciting. But if you look at like the conversations around women in hospitality right now, there is a lot of talk about like the kitchen not being a hospitable place for women. And really the only women that stick around long enough to like go up the rungs of the ladder and get to positions of leadership are the ones that have thick skin, as they say. There's a famous chef here in Las Vegas. I asked this question during a public panel, and I said, do you think that people are ready to have the uncomfortable conversations necessary for the kitchen to become a more hospitable place for women? And this famous chef says, oh, I work with a lot of strong women. I have a lot of female leaders in my organization, and you just got to have the huevos, the lady huevos to stand it. I was like, bullshit, man. Like, no. Like, first of all, what you just said was toxic as fuck. So, like, cancel. No more of that. And then the next thing is, why? And who ends up hurting the most in that situation is, like, the whole team. The women and the men within that organization and team. And I had a guy come up to me after the panel to shake my hand and thank me for my question. And he says, I worked in kitchens here on the Strip in Las Vegas for 30 years. And there were a lot of very talented women that came through my kitchen to work with my team. And none of them stuck around because there was so much like vulgar conversations. There was like so much sexualization going on that, and he was like, and I was the boss and I couldn't even manage this. Like, it was such a prevalent, like, deep embedded culture. And so that's interesting. Nobody sticks around, and so that's what ends up kind of making tokenism. Hi, Christian. Thanks for stopping by and saying hello. Yeah, you hear Bitcoin. Yeah, the kitchen is exactly the definition of toxic masculinity. It is. But we got to change it because look at this number, 51.6%. This is from 2017. That's the percentage of women that are, going to culinary school. And what are they going to do? Like, they're going to graduate and then probably decide, oh, I'm just not going to work. And that's fine too. I think that there's a lot of work that we could do in addition to this work of like removing tokenism and empowering everybody, but also like normalizing the choice to fall within a gender role. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, as I was like on my journey, younger, now my ideas around this has changed a lot, but when I was younger and on my journey of like becoming a leader, it was like, there is no room for me to have a family. Not only did I think that myself because of my own time management, but I also felt the pressure from others that like there'd be this stigma that if I ever like went down the path of starting a family at a young age, that there'd be this stigma, from the women around me and from the men around me that I am not on the path towards success. And yeah, that's a problem. We gotta fix that, man. If you wanna do the biological work with that, which at the end of the day, like that's all we're supposed to be doing, then yeah, you can have a lot healthier families. Because then, like, all the strong, intelligent women are not becoming mothers. And that's a problem, too. We need strong, intelligent mothers. not just the women that, like, felt like they weren't on a path towards success. We need all kinds of mothers. On Bitcoin? Bitcoin says yes. Thick skin remains obligatory in any physically and mentally stressful field. It creates many problems. It's true, Hungry Wolf. Thick skin. I still have to deal with that. I mean, even on Twitch, right? How many people have I had to block today because of harassing comments? Which, by the way, Christian, you want to share your joke? Giving you a chance. Giving you a chance. Tell me your joke. This stream is about empowering women, so be wise with your joke. We shouldn't have to have thick skin. We should have the freedom to just be who we want to be, how we want to be. But there's all these things. Guys, thank you for letting me be honest and be myself. I do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Drink some more tea. Yeah, I don't know the solution other than putting in the work to be more mindful, and really like the first step is like holding the space for the sensitivities. And you know what's beautiful about this? And you don't have to fear that we're constantly going to have to be tiptoeing PC people for the rest of our lives and for the rest of humanity. No, like as soon as we do all of this work to restore our culture, we won't have to be sensitive anymore because there won't be problems. You know, we only have to be sensitive now, and not only sensitive, but validating to the sensitive. In this interim, in this time, we're in a painful growing period that, you know, I do promise you, if we all put the work in and we all create the culture that's inclusive, then there will be no sensitivities. There will be no need for the sensitivities. All right, Joe, I'll see you on Topia. I'll be there soon. I'm just going to wrap things up here. And yeah, then I'm going to go hang out with the homies. I'm going to go hang out with the peeps in Topia. We do weekly tea drinking, shooting the shit sesh in the virtual tea house on Topia on Monday nights at 5 Pacific. So I'm 22 minutes late to it, but that's okay. We usually stay pretty late. And actually, I will give you guys the link so you guys I will give you all the link so you all can join if you please. See, it's hard. It's hard. It's not going to be easy. But you got to do the work. And then for the guys, like the real guys, the male human beings, the guys, maybe we should just retire that term altogether, because really, is that the origin? Guy Fawkes is the origin of calling someone a guy? I didn't know that. But, yeah, we meet in Topia. You all are welcome to join. I do not stream on Monday nights, so it's a safer, more vulnerable place. But I'll be honest with you, we end up being a little bit more wild and rambunctious on Thursdays when I am streaming. But I do like to leave Mondays for, you know, more privacy and intimacy around this event. So go check it out. That's a link there. It is best accessed from a computer Chrome browser. Oh, Joni. Thank you so much for being here for this conversation and sharing that article. You brought a good question, you know, like I need to be called out on this sometimes, that like sometimes I'm so like honed in focus on like talking about like the ills of something and the need to change something, that I think that, yeah, there is a valid place to talk about the benefits of it. Because even though we all may have the intention of changing it, we can learn more if we really dive in and understand, well, what was good about it? What was bad about it? What was good about it? And this new culture that we end up practicing, what can we pull from those things to build a more inclusive future? So yeah, there is some good to it. But I don't know. The answers I had for it weren't actually that good. Other than, yeah, motivating people to want to become the token. But no, that's not good. Not good to be a token. It is, stop trying to be exceptional within a normal realm and try to be normal within an exceptional realm. I love that. The only good thing from that book, I feel. Yeah, the Path of the Peaceful Warrior. That was recommended to me through a Twitch stream. And so yeah, I got access to the book and read it, and I was like, oh no, this is what our young men are being inspired by. But I did like that. Although they didn't go into greater detail about that quote. How do you create an exceptional realm? Well, an exceptional realm is where everybody is powerful. Everybody and everything is powerful. That's a blessing. Well, lovely friends, It's been a good chat. I am always so grateful that you all allow me. It's hard. You all allow me to express myself freely and to contribute to my perspective as well. It's not one-sided. It seems one-sided because I'm the only one with the camera facing me, but it is two-sided. So, thank you so much for engaging in this conversation. And yeah, let's go find somebody to raid. If there's someone online. I'm not in the mood to go raid a total stranger right now. If we had a big crew, we had a big fired up posse, I'd totally go raid anybody, but let's see if a friend's here. We had a big crew. We'll listen to some dance music. Thank you, Joni. Hey, join us in Topia if you like, Joni. You're welcome. I don't know if you're on a computer. You're welcome to come meet some tea friends. We have a pretty solid little group that meets on Monday nights. Yeah, let's go watch some art. Send you all to see some peaceful, meditative art with a kiwi. Oh, she's doing some cool art. Let's go T-Raid. We'll go T-Raid. Let's go get them. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We're making some art tomorrow night. Get fried. I'm gonna fry some fish. We're gonna do a fish fry. Love you guys.